My question is, and I'm up to the part where I'm learning about relaxing. Instead of resisting, relaxing into where you want to be and aligning your thoughts vibrationally. Is it the thinking of it that does it?
Well, it is, because whatever you're thinking about, and let's use other words, focus, attention, remember, musing, pondering, imagining. In other words, anything that represents focus activates a vibration. And so, as you activate a vibration, now you have a feeling response. Now, why is that? Why could you look at something in your now and generate a feeling response of either joy or agony or something in between? The reason is because there is a current that always runs to you and through you that is your source. And when you focus upon something now, you set up a vibrational harmonic or discord between the vibration of your source and you. It's sort of like, imagine a note always playing if you're musically inclined, and then imagine striking a note that harmonizes or striking a note that's the same note, which really is a blending, or striking a discordant note. And so the emotion that you feel is about the harmony of you with your soul, or you with your source, or you with your inner being. Now, those words all mean the same to us. So think and feel, think and feel. But we think you're getting at something that is important here, or at least we want to get there, and that is, if you care mostly about how you feel, now you're more inclined to guide your thoughts in non-resistant ways. For example, Esther has been enjoying watching the presidential debates because intellectually they are stimulating. And she likes to hear things that she agrees with. And she likes to argue with things she doesn't agree with. In other words, she likes the stimulation. But we have to say, we do not believe that her watching of those presidential debates or vice presidential debates, the watching of them does not induce good feelings in her. So she's opting for something that's interesting or something that's fascinating more than she's opting for something that's good feeling. And we would never do that. We would never opt for something, but we do not think that you have to opt for, in other words, we don't think it has to be either or. Something can be stimulating and good feeling if you get in the right mindset. In other words, Esther could watch those presidential debates if she was intent on finding a way of feeling good as she is watching it, but it moves too fast. In other words, there are too many things that are activated within her that she doesn't have control over, so it's a roller coaster sort of an experience for her, you see. When you decide that nothing is more important than that you feel good, we believe you will begin then to guide your thoughts into those patterns that are more likely to be the good feeling patterns. In other words, it's like watching a movie. Esther knows that she wants the movie to uplift her. She knows she doesn't want to be frightened by it. So she's very particular about the movies that she watches. You see. And we want her and all of you to be very particular about the reality that you watch. Because in reality, the reality that you watch is only a movie that somebody else has created. Everything that everybody else is living is as fictitious as the movie that you watch, because it's not real in the sense that it now has the power to jump into your experience. You go to a movie and you see something that frightens you, and you say to your child, "Don't worry, honey, it's not real." And we want to say to you, you could see someone with cancer, and you could as accurately say the same thing to that person, "Don't worry, honey, it's not real," because it has been created by the vibration of that person. It doesn't have a reality of its own and the power to jump into your experience. Did we get somewhere with that?
Yes.
That's powerful, you see.
It is.
People will say, "Well, Abraham, it's real, it's truth, it's fact. Therefore, I should give my attention to it." And we say, "Did you hear what you just said? You said somebody else gave their attention to something that they did not want, did it long enough that they activated the vibration long enough that the activated vibration became a dominant vibration until they created it in their experience. And because they have done that, now I should do it too." And we say we wouldn't.
Okay. I've been working with a physical condition, joint pain, arthritis, and I've listened to the tape on, well-being and I've forgotten the name of the tape, but I listened to it a lot. I think I'm feeling better, and I keep hanging on to that there is absolutely nothing that I can't be, do, or have.
And that's true. But we're going to give you something here. This is the perfect example to take the opportunity right now to understand the difference between the action journey and the emotional journey. And here's what we mean. Let's say that your body's hurting in some way. Can you separate in your mind the physical sensation of discomfort and the emotional response to that? Here's what we mean. Could your hips be hurting amidst a hopeful vibration? And could your hips be hurting amidst a fearful vibration? Oh, hear this. So if your hips are hurting and you're hopeful, your vibration is such that you are allowing your body to change. But if your hips are hurting and you're dreading and fearful, now you're going in the other direction. That's why diseases always rampage right after diagnosis. Because you always take an emotional dip after the diagnosis, unless the diagnosis comes with an immediate pill. In other words, oh yeah, you've got this, but this will solve it. Then you don't take this big dip. But if somebody gives you the label of something for which they have not found an effective cure, then your emotional journey dips the wrong way, and that's why the disease always gets fast traction at that point. So, my body hurts, but I'm hopeful. My body hurts, but I'm frightened. Feel it. In your hope, it doesn't hurt so much right away. In your hope, you can distract yourself. In your fear, the pain that was small becomes greater and greater and greater and greater and greater. Test it out. Show yourself with the next headache or the next backache or the next stomach ache or the next any kind of physical sensation. Take an emotional journey and show yourself the difference, you see. Have you ever had troubling thought come to you, which causes you to take an emotional journey of fear or panic or anger, only to find yourself flushed and sweating, and you're taking off your coat, and your body is responding to your emotional journey. It responds immediately. That's why you can watch a movie that's frightening, even though there's nothing after you, and your heart starts pounding, because you've taken an emotional journey, and now you're having a physical response to your emotional journey. We so much want you to understand that your bodies are the first in line to have a response to the emotional journey that you're taking, and yet almost nobody is willing to even acknowledge the emotional journey. Most physical humans say, oh, I'll take the emotional journey once the circumstances change. And we say, too late. Or much harder. You see? Much harder. Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Feel the difference. So you have a headache and it's bothering you, and you were irritated before you got it, but having it just compounds it. And now, instead of soothing yourself, you're talking about the headache. You're talking about the stress in your life. You're talking about how you've got too much to do. You're talking about how your computer won't work. You're talking about how somebody let you down or how you got bogged down in traffic. So you've got this physical condition, and the emotional journey you're taking is going in the wrong direction. And so the headache gets bigger, or you decide you're going to take another emotional journey, a different kind of emotional journey. So you've got a headache, but now you say, I'm going to soothe. And so you offer different words with soothing in mind. So you say things like, this too shall pass. You say, oh, I've had tension before. You say, I've been behind before, but I always get caught up. You say, what's the worst thing that could happen? I'm sitting here in traffic. Nobody expects me to turn my car into a helicopter and fly over this. Everyone understands gridlock in traffic, so all is well there. And you deliberately try to soothe yourself. You say, well, good, this is an opportunity for me to relax here a little bit. I've wanted a chance to sit and relax. Let's see if I can find something pleasant to listen to on the radio, some sort of nice music. And as you deliberately take an emotional journey that feels better, the tension lifts off of you and your physical condition changes instantly. Yes. We want so much for you to make the association between your physical body and the emotion that is in your physical body. And we want you to see them as two separate entities for just a little while. And when you make the emotion the separate journey that it is, everything else in your experience will align to the well-being that you are seeking. Yes.
I have some stiffness in my right thumb, and I would like to know what I'm vibrating so that I can correct it.
We do not think that the process is best applied to try to pinpoint exactly what thoughts you're thinking that are causing the stiffness. Because once you are aware of stiffness, just your awareness of the stiffness is enough to keep it perpetuated. So we would do our best to try to apply this idea of this emotional journey to things that are bothering you. In other words, we always like to reflect right back to someone who says, I have stiffness or soreness or something. We like to say, well, what's been bothering you? And they will say the stiffness and the soreness. And we say, but what was bothering you before the stiffness and the soreness? And sometimes it's a hard thing to pinpoint because you just get used to putting up with aggravation. There are a lot of you who have been trained into putting up with not feeling all that good. And we want you to get so picky about wanting to feel good that you become more aware of the thoughts that you've been thinking that don't feel so good. It's one of the best benefits that comes when you begin meditating. Because when you quiet your mind, you stop thought, which means you have to stop all resistant thought. And when you stop resistant thought, your vibration begins to raise. And when your vibration raises, what happens is any dip in vibration sticks out like a sore thumb. You see. So what happens is it's like an indication of resistance. Have you ever used that phrase? Something sticks out like a sore thumb? When your thumb is sore, don't you notice you just bump it on everything? And so when you're out there sort of raw and ragged on something, it just sort of shows up everywhere. And so if you have a physical condition that's showing up, you got to understand, we want to shout it to the boundaries of this boundaryless universe. If you have physical discomfort in your body, it is a result of long-standing resistance, which means something's been bothering you for a long, long time. And usually what it boils down to is someone or something has made me consistently for a pretty good period of time feel like I don't have the freedom to be or do or have what I want to do. And sometimes you can assign it to someone else. Sometimes you can assign it to your own insecurity. Sometimes it's because there has been or is a dominant person in your experience that always wants to tell you where you're going to go have dinner. And sometimes it's your own feeling of insecurity that makes you acquiesce to others. But it's a perception of loss of power or freedom, usually. If you've got a little resistance going on in your vibration, it's going to show up like emotion. And if you don't do anything about soothing your thought, then it's going to show up like sensation. And if you don't do anything about soothing it, then it's going to show up like stiffness or soreness. And if you don't do anything about soothing it, now it's going to show up in a stronger diagnosis. In other words, these are all degrees of resistance. And so we think it's very nice to have a real, manifested evidence of vibration. Because as you determine to take emotional journeys, not only are you going to feel better, but the sensation will feel better too. Now we want to say something powerful to you here. Earlier we said to our friend, can you have sore hips, which is the action journey, and hopefulness at the same time? So if you can separate those two experiences, there's the way my body feels and there's the way I feel about the way my body feels. And if you will determine that you're going to feel optimistic about the way your body feels, now the other part of it must turn around. We don't know how you bear it. When you watch television, they are so sure about your decline and they have so much to offer you. Because they're so sure about your decline, you can't watch an hour of television without intense programming about the maladies, about the potential problems in your physical body. So if you're watching television, you've got to be taking an emotional journey at the same time you're having your television journey. So as you're watching the program and they say 1 out of every 5's got it, you have to be able to say and mean it, that may be true, but I'm not the one. When they say, at a certain age, this and this and this happens, you have to be able to say and mean, that may be true, but I'm an exception. In other words, you've got to constantly balance your emotional journey with the action journey that's being taken. And when you don't do a good job of that, so you get out of balance resistance-wise, then things show up and you become statistics. And oh, humans are so interested in statistics. As if they had anything under heaven and earth to do with you. They don't.